TV's special immigration show with attorney Ms. Prashanthi Reddy from Law Offices of Prashanthi Reddy PLLC. Ms. Prashanthi needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, please log on to reddysq.com site for contact information, and when you connect with them, do not forget to mention Sakshi TV. From the beginning, the reddysq.com site has put a wealth of free information and online tools in the hands of the immigrant community and for the benefit of US employers. Today's topic is the alternatives to H-1B. We're continuing it, and USCIS'S backlog updates and June visa bulletin updates. Hello, Ms. Reddy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And I hope you're doing well as well.
I am.
So we have a lot to discuss today. I'm sure there are so many updates that we want to give all of our viewers. What would you want to start off with, Ms. Reddy? There is USCIS'S backlog updates and June visa bulletin updates. Your choice.
So let's start with the USCIS'S backlog reduction efforts.
Right.
There was a call today at 2 p.m. EST where USCIS had a public engagement call. They do that sometimes. They have a call with all their customers or stakeholders, as they're called, so that they can discuss various topics and various things that they feel need urgent discussion, and nothing is more urgent or needs more discussion or rectification than the severe backlogs that USCIS has right now. And these backlogs started in 2020, started with COVID, and and because of COVID and many other reasons, the backlogs have more than doubled. So even a simple case now is taking 3 times the amount of time that it would have taken, say, in 2019 or earlier to that. And even before that, we would talk about backlogs, but we didn't really know what backlogs were until it became so bad that pretty much cases started coming to a standstill because people couldn't get the benefits on time to take up a job or to visit or whatever it might be, to get a green card. So anyway, I joined in the call hoping to get some good news. There is a sprinkling of good news, but so let's go through the points that I made. So first, USCIS has said that they have 8.5 million cases pending right now. So that's how many cases they're processing. And out of that, 5 million cases are over processing time, which means they're backlogged. And again, they gave the explanation that is due to many reasons, COVID-19. They had a hiring freeze. Not only that, they laid off a lot of people. They also say that there was an uptick or increase in cases. Also, offices closed. Biometrics offices and certain field offices and, of course, consulates. There was a lot of closures of offices because of COVID. So this affected interviews and taking of biometrics, etc. And they said that in addition to this, they had a severe financial crunch. I don't know why, but they say that for a certain period of time, the cases decreased. And so they basically get their money from filing fees. So I'm presuming that in 2020, when COVID first hit, that year the cases might have decreased, and therefore they didn't have as much finances as they usually do, and they're saying that continues to affect them. They have also said that the good news for the backlogs is that they're saying as of February, which is last month, or rather a couple of months earlier, February 2022, the backlogs has started decreasing slightly. So just to get a perspective, the backlog caseload was about 2.5 million in 2019. So there was a backlog even in 2019. They were not meeting their processing goals. The processing dates that they set out for themselves or that they published or advertised, they were not meeting that even in 2019, but it was 2.5 million cases in the backlog in 2019, and that changed to 5.1 million in 2020. So almost doubled, more than doubled in 2020, their backlog.
Right.
So now they're saying that their backlog is slowly decreasing because the hiring freeze has been lifted. So they're able to hire more people now, and they are actively hiring. And USCIS is not asking for biometrics anymore in all the cases, meaning biometrics is, fingerprints and the photographs and fingerprints, etc., which they usually ask for. They're reusing that information, so they're able to use those resources that they would use to take the biometrics for other things. So they have reused the biometrics for about 2 million cases. So they've saved some manpower and man hours there. They've started video interviews. So instead of calling people for in-person interviews, they've started interviewing over the internet. And they have actually conducted video interviews instead of in-person for about 160,000 cases. And most of these cases are naturalization or citizenship interview cases. So they're trying to be more effective with the resources that they have, which is a good thing. But not good enough, but still something is better than nothing. So USCIS's goal is to decrease the processing time by 2023. So they call it the cyclic time, so cyclic time reduction. So this is their internal cycle of time that they take to process cases, which will again affect the processing time, of course, but it's not the exact time that the case will be processed, but it's the internal processing time. And they're saying they want to reduce this for all cases for between 2 weeks to 6 months. So depending on the type of case, by next year, for example, 485s and naturalization cases, they want to decrease their cyclic time to, that means the internal processing time, to 6 months. And other cases which are easier, I'm presuming it will be a lesser period of time. They're also implementing premium processing. They're expanding that. And we've heard, from the past couple of months, even last year, that because the White House mandated that they expand premium processing, but they've been very slow in doing that, in expanding it to other cases. But they're starting right now with I-140s that are not eligible for premium processing, so I'm presuming some kind of EB1 type I-140s. And then they will move to premium processing for EADs, which we know are heavily backlogged, and I-539s, which is change of status or changing to a visitor's visa, or all those are I-539. H4 cases are also I-539s. So they have not given us a time, though, as to when they're going to be able to premium processing I-539s and I-765s. So they haven't given us a timeline. But for the I-140s, for the ones that are not covered, they said within a couple of weeks. So that's the some promises that they've made with reference to what we can expect for processing time changes. Also, they have said that they're trying to improve their fiscal strength, which means they're trying to get more money or make better use maybe of the money that they have, maybe a better accounting. So the good news is USCIS has been given $275 million by the Congress to reduce the backlog in 2022. So this year's backlog, they're really ferociously trying to tackle it. And they have the resources to do it, so they don't have an excuse anymore of no employees or, having to reduce the employees that they have. So that should be plenty for them to increase their staff. So right now, they say that they're staffed at 82%, meaning they're not fully staffed because they've laid off some 20%.
But I think this budget allocation can change things for them for the good.
I'm hoping because 275 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Again, it depends on how they use their resources. And
right.
The reason why Congress didn't want to give them this money in the first place is because they're not accountable for how they're using the money.
Right.
Because a lot of people are of the opinion that they have plenty of money, and because remember, everything that we file a benefit, 80% or 90% of it almost is fee-based. So we're paying them a fee for it.
Definitely.
They're not doing it free of charge. So
right.
They should be able to, and every year they keep increasing the fees.
Right.
So a lot of immigration attorneys and as well as legislators were of the opinion that they should first show a proper accounting of what is being used, and maybe they're being wasteful.
Definitely.
So,
Right.
so that's why they didn't want to give them further money, but looks like if they didn't, then things were not going to get any better, and it was, a desperate situation, and it still is. We haven't seen the improvements that we want to see, but anyway, they're going to hire more people, so they're going to hire that 20% people that they laid off. That's 1/5. That's a huge population of employees not to have, those employees. So they're
Right.
filling those positions, and also they're improving efficiency in the best way they can. They're moving to online processing. They're um, taking out interviews where not needed. So wherever an interview is not required, they're not having interviews. They're making that discretionary rather than interviewing every single person. They're switching to video interviews. So there's some things reusing the biometrics. Some things they're doing to improve efficiency. So let's see how far that takes us. But there is a slight um, increase in the processing, or rather decrease in the processing time and reduction in the backlog, as they said, based on the numbers that they've provided since February of this year. So that's good news.
Right.
Then at the call also there were some questions that were asked, so quickly go through the ones that I thought were important, and some of them are quite important, and I'll tell you
Right.
when we get to
Please.
it. But one of the important questions which is on everyone's mind is this year what's going to happen to the green card numbers? Because as we know, every year since COVID, there have been surplus number of green cards available that went wasted. And meanwhile, especially Indian nationals have been waiting 10 years, 12 years for their green
This was
cards, and
under
the
the
numbers.
Trump's rule, wasn't it?
It was, but it's continued since then. And it's no longer
Right.
because of some policy, it's because of the inefficiency or inability of the USCIS to process those cases.
Right.
So there's been wasted green card numbers. And when there's so much of a backlog and a wait for green cards, it seems so sad that so many green cards have been wasted in the last few years. I mean, they've
Right.
been wasted over many years actually, but it's more significant because there were more numbers available last few years, and they could have been used up, but they were not, and they don't carry forward to the next year. So that's unfortunately that requires a change in law. A lot of this requires a change in law. So
Right.
USCIS cannot be blamed for everything, but we are yet to see that kind of immigration reform. So basically, coming back to this point, someone asked if unused green
Right.
card numbers will be wasted this year as well. And USCIS responded that it's their top priority to utilize as many green card numbers as possible. So they're not still promising that all the numbers will be utilized. And they're
Right.
saying the family-based green card numbers, which we know have again not been utilized last year because consulates were closed, the ones that are outside the country. So they will be moved to the employment-based the following year. So there will be a surplus number for employment based, and they direly need it. So, for example,
Right.
last year only 175,000 numbers were used.
Right.
And this year we have 280,000 green card numbers available.
Okay.
And they have to be used up. So this they only used they wasted 100,000 green
Okay.
cards or more. So
Yeah.
this year 280,000 numbers
Mm.
green cards have to be used up by September, because that's the end of the fiscal year, September 30th.
Right.
Um,
So,
so USCIS is saying that they're trying, and in response to that question, they said that they're trying, and they pointed to all the different things that they're doing to ensure that they're able to process more cases. And they've also said that they don't have sufficient
right, Miss.
cases for.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
so
Hello.
you were telling us about the updates.
Yes. So as I was saying, the USCIS has said that they will try to use as many green card numbers as possible. And they've also said that they do not have sufficient inventory to use up for the numbers available for EB1 and EB2 categories. So they've said again that they don't have enough cases to use up all the numbers available for EB1 and EB2. So they are asking all those who qualify to file their EB1 or EB2 as soon as possible, or to, if you've already filed under EB3 or some other category, to interfile under the EB2 category. So this we know because they've been saying it for a while that they have numbers available and to file. But even if you file, there is, as we said, the other problem exists. We don't know whether they'll be able to process them in time, or it'll get wasted, and then we don't know. So anyway, our job is to file if we qualify, and after that leave it up to our luck or USCIS'S efficiency to process cases on time. And USCIS is also recommending, so that they can process cases faster, to submit medicals along with your case, so that they don't have to send an RFE, because that really delays processing of cases. The other thing that they've talked about, someone asked about, is the K1 or the fiancé visas, because the processing times are over 10 months, almost a year now. They have promised to reduce the processing time for those K or fiancé visas to 6 months by next year. They also talked about the processing time goals and whether that will be published on the website, and USCIS has said that USCIS has made changes to the website so that the current processing times are more specific to the form type. So it's not just a generic processing time. They've said that now the processing times are more specific to that specific form, and also they are being described in a better way, in the form of a percentile, as to how many cases are processed, how many cases in that, like 80% cases are processed within 6 months, and 10% are processed within so and so time. So they're giving a percentile for the processing time, which is a lot more information. They're giving a lot more background information as well. So this is them trying to be more transparent. The other update I have is that we know already, and I've covered this in the show previously, that all the I-140s and 485s from all the other service centers are being moved now to the National Benefit Center, and they've said that all cases will be processed at this one National Benefit Center. And historically, National Benefit Center has had better processing times than the other service centers. But now with all the cases moving to just one service center, it remains to be seen how quickly they'll be able to process them. I have my own doubts. But another thing that they've mentioned is all the 485 cases are going to be adjudicated by the field officers. So before, cases would only be sent to the field officers if they were scheduled for an interview. But now it seems that the field officers will be processing all 485 cases. So they're, as you can see, reorganizing themselves so that they can, decrease the processing time and increase the number of cases that they process. So let's see how that works out. Another very important update is someone asked about how the interfiling process is going on and whether they have approved any cases. So just to remind our viewers that USCIS has reminded us that we can interfile. So if you want to upgrade from EB3, which you filed previously, to your EB2 I-140 based on a pending 485, you want to use your EB2 instead of your EB3, you don't have to refile your case, but you can request for the 485 to be interfiled with your existing I-140, which you have. So we were not sure what was happening with those cases and whether any action is being taken or not. But as per what USCIS said today, which is good news, they said as of May 11th, they've received 11,700 requests at that new address that they gave us for interfiling. And out of which 5,000 cases were approved, the request for interfiling was approved, and the email was sent to the service centers so that those files could be pulled out and final adjudication could be done on those files. So that's good news. That means this is actually working, the interfile process. So people should continue to interfiles and hopefully they'll get an update from the service center soon on their cases. Other cases also, the remaining about 6,000 cases or so are also being worked on, is what we've been told. somebody asked if the I-765, when the premium processing for those cases will start. That's the EADs, which everyone is anxiously waiting for. They didn't really respond as to when. They just said that they have many priorities and, they skirted the issue, so they didn't really give an answer on that question. They did say that interviews are being reduced. We talked about this already, how for family-based, employment-based, they did a study based on the interviews that took place in the previous years and whether they found any fraud in those interviews that took place. And from the data, they believe that they don't need to interview so many cases, and they're moving to a more risk-based process, whereby they're willing to take the risk and not interview people when not required by law. And they're trying to decrease those interviews and approve cases without interviews. Also, somebody commented that they should be more transparent with reference to their processing times and their timelines, because their processing times are never the same. It's always, for every case, it's different. And they didn't say much about that comment, except, to give, again, some information about what is done. So that's the update for USCIS
Backlogs, right?
call that we had today. I think we should move quickly to the visa bulletin, because we don't have much time.
We don't. Yeah, please go on.
The takeaways for the June visa bulletin is for EB1, final action dates, starting with final action dates. No change for China, continues to be March 1, 2019. No change for EB2 or EB3 China, both. So EB3 China remains at March 2018. EB2 China remains at March 2019. EB2 India, this is a big one. EB2 India has advanced by 1 year. So it advanced from September 2013 to September 2014. So that's a huge leap for EB2 India. And we were just talking about how they are encouraging people to move to file their EB2 cases, and that there is availability in EB2 and EB1 cases. So this is proof of that. Again, every month they've been moving, but they moved by 6 months. Then last month they moved by a few months. This month is a significant move of 1 year. EB3 India final action date hasn't moved, because so many EB3s were filed in 2020. Now, with reference to dates, pretty much everything remains unchanged for EB2, EB3 China, as well as EB2, EB3 India. EB2 India remains at December 1, 2014, and EB3 India remains at January 22nd, 2012. So as we saw, there's no significant change in dates for filing. The other change is that F2A, so F2A family-based category. So spouses and children of permanent residents, they have been current for some time. This category has been current for some time. Traditionally, for Indian nationals, this category was never current. But then in 2019, it became current because there was large number of F2A numbers available. And then with COVID, because the consulates were closed and these cases could not be processed, the people who are outside the country could not be processed. It continued to be available. But since then, large numbers of F2As are steadily being processed, and that's why they're saying it might be necessary to establish a cutoff date in August. So all those who have family-based who are permanent residents, want to call their spouses and children, please do that before August, because after that there's a chance of it retrogressing. So I think that's it for my updates, Tony.
Right. So I think I'm guessing it's safe to say that things are changing. I mean, slowly but surely things are moving a little forward. So I'm hoping there are more good news to come in the near future. You're watching Sakshi TV Live, and this is Torani. Thank you.